My father demands I downgrade my wedding and give half my budget to my golden child brother so he could get married too. He was shocked when the family doormat said no for the first time. I've been planning my wedding for 18 months, saved every penny from overtime shifts at the hospital where I work as a radiologic technician. My fiancé Thomas and I put aside $30,000. We booked a vineyard, hired a photographer, got a car for his 16th birthday while I took the bus. Parents paid for his college while I took out loans. When he dropped out junior year to become a DJ, Dad called him creative. When I graduated summa cum laude, Dad said anyone can memorize textbooks. Caleb lived at home until he was 28, rent-free, while I was paying my parents $500 a month at 18 because I needed to learn responsibility. Last month, Caleb proposed to his girlfriend Ashley. They've been dating 6 months. He proposed with a ring he bought on payment plans he's already missing. No savings, no plan, just assumed someone would help him out like always. Dad called me the next day, said Caleb needed help with wedding costs. I said that was unfortunate, but Thomas and I were stretched thin with our own wedding and he actually said church basement like that was a normal suggestion. I laughed thinking he was joking. He wasn't. He said I was being selfish having such an expensive wedding when Caleb had nothing, that I'd always been better at managing money so I should help my brother. I reminded him I was better at managing money because I'd been working since 14 while Caleb got allowance until he was 25. Dad said I was being dramatic and family helps each other. I said no and hung up. For 2 weeks, Dad called daily with new suggestions. Cancel the photographer and give Caleb that money. Return my dress and buy something cheaper. Cut the guest list in half. Serve pizza instead of dinner. Each idea more insulting than the last. Mom jumped in saying I was tearing the family apart over money. That Caleb deserved a nice wedding too. That I should think about how this looked to everyone. Then Caleb called crying. Actually crying. Said Ashley was upset they couldn't afford the country club she wanted. That all her friends were having fancy weddings and he looked like a loser. That I had everything, a good job, a house, savings, and he just wanted one special day. Like my wedding day wasn't supposed to be special. The calls got worse. Dad started saying Grandma would be disappointed in me. That I was probably the reason Caleb struggled because I never helped him. That successful siblings lift up the others, not abandon them. He actually accused me of abandoning Caleb by not paying for his wedding. Last week was my bridal shower. My aunt threw it at her house, everything perfect. Halfway through opening gifts, Dad walked in with Caleb and Ashley. Wasn't invited, just showed up. He announced to everyone that I was too selfish to help my brother's wedding while spending $30,000 on mine. The room went silent. My cousin asked Dad how much he was contributing to Caleb's wedding. Dad said she watched me work since I was a teenager while Caleb got trophies for showing up, that she paid for my textbooks secretly because my parents wouldn't. That everyone in the room knew who the real disappointment was, and it wasn't me. Dad left with Caleb trailing behind. Ashley stayed long enough to call me a selfish bitch before my cousins escorted her out. My wedding was last week, and just when I thought I was finally free of the drama, my family showed up. With Caleb. And Ashley, wearing a wedding gown. I stand there frozen at the vineyard entrance, watching Ashley turn and pose like she's at a photo shoot, her white dress catching the sunlight while my parents and Caleb stand behind her acting like this is totally normal behavior. My brain keeps trying to process what I'm seeing, but it's like those moments in movies where everything goes into slow motion, except this is real life, and my family actually showed up to my wedding with my brother's girlfriend wearing a wedding gown. Thomas grabs my hand hard enough that it almost hurts, and leans close to whisper that we're handling this right now, his voice steady, but with this edge I've never heard before. Like cold steel wrapped in calm. Nathan, the wedding coordinator, appears at my elbow looking absolutely horrified, his face pale and his professional smile completely gone as he asks quietly if I want him to call security. I nod. Yes, because I literally cannot form words, my brain still stuck on the image of Ashley doing a little spin in her dress while guests start gathering near the entrance to see what's happening. Nathan pulls out his radio and speaks into it quickly while I just stand there feeling Thomas's hand squeezing mine like an anchor, keeping me from floating away into complete panic. Security arrives within 2 minutes, 2 guys in dark suits who clearly work events like this, and I finally find my voice to explain that these people were not invited, and one of them is wearing a wedding dress to my wedding. The head of Thomas steps in front of me and tells my father in the coldest voice I've ever heard that they need to leave immediately or be escorted out by police. And I feel this rush of love for him because he's protecting me when my own parents won't. Ashley starts crying loudly, these big dramatic sobs, wailing about how she just wanted one special day, and why am I being so selfish when there's room for both of us to get married here. Several of my actual invited guests have gathered now and are staring at this circus in complete disbelief, some of them holding their phones up to record because of course they are. My coworker Ramona catches my eye and mouths something that looks like support, while shaking her head at Ashley's performance. Grandmother appears from wherever she was waiting inside, moving faster than I've seen her move in years, walking right up to Ashley with her cane clicking on the stone pathway. She looks Ashley up and down slowly, taking in the whole white dress situation, and announces loudly enough for everyone to hear that showing up in a wedding dress to someone else's wedding is the trashiest thing she's seen in 90 years, and she's seen a lot. Mom tries to guilt me by rushing over and saying Caleb is sobbing in the parking lot, and can't I just let them use the cocktail hour space for a quick ceremony, like that's all they need, just a tiny corner of my wedding. I actually laugh because the audacity is so extreme it's almost impressive, like they've reached a level of entitlement I didn't think was possible. Anita, my maid of honor, steps up next to Thomas and tells my parents that if they're not gone in 60 seconds, she's personally calling the police and pressing charges for trespassing and harassment. She's got her phone out and is already dialing, her finger hovering over the screen while she stares my parents down. The photographer I hired starts documenting everything with his camera, taking photos of Ashley in her dress and my parents' faces and the whole scene, because he says he's been shooting weddings for 15 years and has never seen anything like this. Luke, my cousin, is also recording on his phone, holding it up obviously so everyone can see, and he tells Dad loudly that this is definitely going to be something the whole family sees on social media. Security guards physically position themselves between my family and me, creating this human barrier while Nathan escorts them toward the exit with his hand gesturing firmly in that direction. Ashley is shrieking about her rights and how she's being discriminated against, which makes absolutely no sense, but she's saying it anyway while security guides her backward. Dad keeps trying to push past the guards, but they're not budging, just standing there solid while Nathan keeps walking my family toward the parking lot. Mom is crying now too, real tears this time, reaching for me over the security guard's arm and saying I'm tearing the family apart. Caleb finally appears from wherever he was hiding in the parking lot, his face red and puffy, and he's yelling something about how I always get everything while he gets nothing. I watch Thomas turn back to my father, his voice cutting through the chaos with this cold clarity I've never heard from him before. Dad's face goes red and he points at Thomas while announcing that if they walk out right now, I'm dead to him, completely dead, and he'll make sure every single person in our family knows what a selfish dog. Caleb follows them, looking back over his shoulder at me with this expression I can't quite read, maybe hurt or maybe just embarrassment that his plan failed so badly. Ashley is still shrieking about discrimination and her rights while security guides her firmly toward the exit, her white dress dragging on the ground because she's wearing heels too tall for the gravel pathway. The whole scene feels surreal, like I'm watching it happen to someone else instead of living through my own wedding day disaster. They finally disappear around the corner of the building, and grief that it came to this on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My hands are shaking, and I realize I've been holding my breath for who knows how long. Thomas wraps both arms around me from behind, and rests his chin on my shoulder, his voice soft in my ear, asking if I want to postpone the ceremony, until I've had time to process everything that just happened. I shake my head hard enough that my veil shifts and tell him no, absolutely not, because I'm not letting them ruin this day any more than they already have. We saved for 18 months and planned every detail and invited everyone we love, and I'm marrying him today exactly like we planned. He squeezes me tighter and kisses the side of my head while several guests approach to check on me, their faces showing concern and anger on my behalf. Ramona reaches me first and pulls me into a hug, telling me she's known my family was messed up, but she had no idea it was this bad. My throat feels tight and I can't really form words yet, so I just nod against her shoulder. Nathan appears beside us and tells Thomas and me that he's giving us 20 minutes to regroup and collect ourselves while he personally makes sure my family is actually off the vineyard property and not lurking in the parking lot planning round 2. He looks genuinely angry on our behalf, his professional coordinator mask slipping to show real emotion. Anita grabs my hand and starts leading me toward the main building, saying we need to get to the bridal suite so she can help me fix my makeup before anyone takes photos of me looking like this. I follow her numbly through the side entrance while guests part to let us through, many of them reaching out to squeeze my arm or whisper encouragement as I pass. She doesn't try to make small talk or tell me everything will be okay, just focuses on fixing my face while I try not to completely fall apart. My phone buzzes in the small clutch I'm carrying, but I ignore it because I cannot deal with whatever messages are coming through right now. Willow knocks softly and comes in without waiting for an answer, her face showing this mix of fury and concern that makes her look exactly like grandmother when she's upset about something. She walks over and kneels down next to my chair, taking my hand in both of hers. Then she tells me something that makes my chest feel tight in a completely different way. She says that she and Harvey already suspected something like this might happen, based on how my parents had been acting, so they hired private security to watch the parking lot and document everything in case we need restraining orders later. I stare at her, trying to process that my aunt cared enough to plan ahead for my family's crazy behavior, while my actual parents showed up trying to hijack my wedding. Willow squeezes my hand and says they got everything on camera, including Ashley in that wedding dress and Dad's threats and the whole confrontation, so if we need legal protection, we have all the evidence we could possibly want. Anita pauses in fixing my makeup to look at Willow with this expression of respect and nods, saying that's exactly the kind. Someone else knocks and the minister pokes his head in, his kind face creased with concern. He asks gently if I'm ready to proceed with the ceremony, or if I need more time to recover from what just happened. I look at myself in the mirror, at Anita working on my makeup, and my veil slightly crooked and my eyes still red. Then I think about Thomas waiting out there, and how I tell the minister I'm ready because I'm not letting my family steal this moment from me, not after everything else they've taken over the years. He smiles and nods, saying he'll let everyone know we're moving forward, and closes the door quietly behind him. Anita finishes with my makeup and fixes my veil, stepping back to look at her work with satisfaction. She tells me I look beautiful and strong and exactly like a woman who knows her worth. I stand up and smooth down my dress, taking a deep breath that shakes only a little bit. My phone starts buzzing again, over and over, the vibrations loud in the quiet room. I pull it out and see the screen lighting up with text after text from relatives who weren't here, but apparently Dad is already calling people and spinning his version of events. There are messages from cousins I barely talk to, from my mom's sisters, from family friends, all asking what happened or telling me I need to fix this, or demanding I explain myself. I stare at the screen watching the messages pile up and feel this wave of exhaustion at the thought of She tells me I'm done being manipulated by people who don't deserve my energy, and she'll deal with the messages later after I'm married and on my way to enjoying my reception. The relief I feel at having that decision taken away is immediate and enormous. We head back out toward the ceremony area, and Nathan finds us in the hallway to report that my family is definitely gone. He watched them drive off the property himself and instructed the gate attendant not to let them back in under any circumstances. He suggests we delay the ceremony by 30 minutes to give everyone time to settle down and make absolutely sure my family isn't coming back. I agree because the idea of starting the ceremony only to have them burst in again sounds like a nightmare I can't handle. Nathan makes an announcement to the guests explaining there will be a brief delay, and instead of being annoyed, people start coming up to me to tell me they're proud of how I handled the situation. My coworker from the hospital tells me she's been in a similar situation with her own family, and seeing me stand firm gives her hope she can do the same. One of Thomas's college friends says what my family did was completely out of line, and anyone with eyes could see I did nothing wrong. Luke shows me a text from our cousin saying she always knew Dad played favorites, and she's glad someone finally called him out. The support feels overwhelming in the best way, like I'm surrounded by people who actually see me and value me. Grandmother makes her way over with her cane, moving slowly but deliberately through the crowd of guests. She reaches the front row where my mom was supposed to sit and lowers herself into the chair with Willow's help. Then she announces loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear that she's never been prouder of me in her entire life, that I showed more strength today than most people show in a lifetime. Several guests actually applaud, and I feel tears starting again, but this time they're good tears, the kind that come from feeling genuinely supported and loved. Grandmother gestures for me to come closer, and when I lean down, she cups my face in her wrinkled hands and tells me my grandfather would have been so proud of the woman I became. My throat closes up completely and I just nod because I can't speak without breaking down. She pats my cheek and tells me to go get married now, that I've kept Thomas waiting long enough. I laugh through the tears and kiss her forehead before stepping back. The ceremony finally starts and the musicians begin playing the processional music. Harvey appears at my side and offers his arm, his eyes a little red like maybe he's been crying too. I take his arm and he walks me toward the aisle, leaning close to whisper that he's honored to do this and that I deserve. So much better than the parents I got stuck with. The words hit me hard because they're exactly what I needed to hear. This validation that my parents' behavior isn't normal or acceptable, and I'm not wrong for refusing to tolerate it anymore. We start down the aisle and I see Thomas at the end waiting for me and everything else just falls away. The drama, the hurt, the anger, all of it fades into background noise because he's there and he's mine and we're doing this. Thomas is crying when I reach him and he takes both my hands in his, holding them tight like he's afraid to let go. He tells me I'm the strongest person he knows, that watching me stand up to my family today showed him exactly who he's marrying, and he's never been more sure of anything. The minister clears his throat and addresses everyone, saying that we've already overcome significant obstacles today, and that's proof our marriage can handle anything life throws at us. He talks about how real love means protecting each other and standing together against people who try to tear you down, even when those people are family. I barely hear the rest of his words because I'm looking at Tom. I promise to build a life with him that's nothing like the one I grew up in, where we support each other instead of tearing each other down. My voice stays steady even though I want to cry, because these words mean more after everything that happened. The minister pronounced, "The kiss lasts longer than we planned," and I hear people cheering, but it sounds far away. For those few seconds, I completely forget about my parents and Caleb and Ashley in her. It's just me and Thomas and the fact that we actually did this despite everyone trying to stop us. When we finally break apart, the guests are on their feet clapping and whistling. Some people are crying, including Harvey, who's not even trying to hide it. We walk back down the aisle together as husband and wife, and I squeeze Thomas's hand so hard my fingers hurt. The reception starts an hour later after photos, and I barely sit down before people start coming up to our table. A woman from Thomas's work tells me her sister tried to sabotage her wedding too, and seeing me stand firm today gave her chills. One of my nursing school friends says she's going no contact with her own toxic mother after watching what I went through. A couple I don't know well explains they eloped because of family drama, and they wish they'd had my courage to do it their way publicly. It's weird but also comforting to realize how many people deal with messed up families. Everyone seems to understand that what my parents did was Luke finds me during cocktail hour with his phone out. He shows me the video he recorded of the whole entrance disaster, starting with Ashley posing in her wedding dress and ending with watching it makes my stomach turn, but I tell him to send it to me anyway. Part of me knows I might need proof later if my family tries to rewrite what happened. The video shows everything clearly, including Dad's face when Thomas told him to leave, and Ashley's tantrum about discrimination. Luke says he's keeping a backup copy too, just in case. He also mentions that half the family is already texting, asking what happened because apparently Dad is spreading some version of events that makes him look reasonable. I turn my phone back on briefly to check messages and immediately regret it. 47 texts and 12 voicemails from various relatives. I scroll through quickly, and it's a mixed bag. My cousin from Dad's side demands I apologize for embarrassing everyone. 2 aunts say they're proud of me for setting boundaries. Uncle Greg is confused and wants to know why Caleb thought he could share my wedding. Mom's sister sent 3 long. He tucks it in his jacket pocket and tells me we'll deal with it tomorrow. Ramona from the hospital catches me near the bar. She pulls me aside and says if I need anything in the coming weeks, she's there to help. She offers to screen my calls at work, or she went through something similar with her own parents and knows how hard the aftermath can be. Having a coworker care enough to offer real help means more than she probably realizes. Most people say supportive things, but Ramona is offering actual concrete assistance. She says they probably will get worse before they get better, and I should prepare myself for an extinction burst when my parents realize I'm serious about The photographer pulls me away from the dessert table before dinner starts. He shows me his camera screen scrolling through the photos he took. He edited out most of the drama shots of my family, but kept a few. There's one of Thomas stepping in front of me when Dad started yelling. Another of me standing straight with my chin up while security escorted Ashley out. He says these pictures show real love and partnership, not the fake perfect moments most wedding photos try to capture. He promises the final album will tell the story of 2 people who fought for their wedding day, and won. I thank him and realize these photos will mean more to me than traditional pretty shots ever could. Dinner service starts, and Willow stands up to give a toast. She talks about how chosen family matters just as much as blood family, maybe even more because you pick the people who truly love and support you. She says I've always been more like a daughter to her than a niece, and she's honored to be here today. She mentions watching me work since I was a teenager while my parents made excuses for Caleb. Her voice gets emotional when she says she's proud of the woman I became despite my parents' failures. Not because of that. Thomas and I have our first dance to the song we picked months ago. He pulls me close and whispers that we're starting our marriage exactly right by putting each other first. I realize he's completely right. Today proved we can handle anything together, including my family's worst behavior. We protected our wedding day and each other when it mattered most. Dancing with him, I feel this sense of certainty that we made the right choice getting married even with all the drama. Some people probably think we're building our own family now and nobody gets to interfere with that. My phone buzzes in Thomas's pocket during the last dance set. He pulls it out and checks the screen, then shows me a long text from Caleb. The message calls me evil and selfish. Says Ashley is devastated and their relationship is falling apart because of me. Claims I ruined his life by not helping with the wedding and then humiliating them today. Blames me for Ashley reconsidering their engagement. I read the whole thing and then delete it without responding. I'm done being blamed for Caleb's choices and the consequences he faces. Thomas asks if I'm okay, and I tell him I actually am. For the first time in my life, I'm refusing to accept responsibility for my brother's problems, and it feels surprisingly good. I turn my phone back off and slip it into Thomas's jacket pocket. The reception continues around us with music and laughter filling the vineyard air. Grandmother appears next to me while I'm watching the caterers set up the cake table. She takes my arm and guides me away from the crowd toward a quieter corner near the arbor where we got married. Her grip is surprisingly strong for 90 years old, and I can tell she has something important to say. She stops walking and turns to face me with that serious expression she gets when she's about to drop a bomb. She tells me the house should go to the grandchild who actually deserves it, who worked for everything they have, who knows the value of what they're given. I try to tell her that's too much, that Caleb will lose his mind, that it will cause more problems. She pats my cheek and says, Caleb getting upset over consequences is exactly why he needs to learn he can't coast through life expecting handouts. She tells me the house has been in our family for 60 years, and she wants it to go to someone who will appreciate it and take care of it properly. She hugs me tight and whispers that my grandfather would have been so proud of the woman I became despite my parents' failures. The party continues, and I finally let myself actually enjoy my own wedding reception. Thomas and I dance with our friends while grandmother holds court at her table telling embarrassing stories about my father when he was young. The vineyard staff brings out the cake and it's exactly what I wanted. 3 tiers with fresh flowers cascading down the sides. My real family, the people who actually love and support me, are all here celebrating with us. Willow and Harvey dance together looking happy and relaxed now that the drama is over. Their kids run around the dance floor with some of my cousin's children, all of them laughing and playing without any idea of the chaos that happened earlier. Anita gives a speech about how she's known me since college and watched me work harder than anyone she's ever met. The photographer is still taking pictures, and I realize these photos will show the real celebration. The joy that came after we protected our boundaries. Luke finds me near midnight and shows me more footage he took of the actual ceremony and reception. The happiness on my face in these videos is genuine and beautiful, and everything I hoped my wedding would be. The party finally winds down around midnight, and Thomas and I say goodbye to everyone still there. Grandmother kisses both our cheeks and tells us to go be happy together. Willow hugs me so tight I can barely breathe and whispers that she's always. The room is beautiful with a view of the city lights and a big, comfortable. We change out of our wedding clothes and I finally let myself completely fall apart. Everything I held together all day comes crashing down, and I sob into Thomas's chest about losing my parents and my brother. He holds me and doesn't try to fix it or tell me it will be okay. He just lets me cry and grieve for the family I should have had instead of the one I got. I cry about how my own father chose my brother over me on my wedding day. How my mother stood by and let it happen. How Caleb brought his girlfriend in a wedding dress to sabotage the day I'd been planning for 18 months. Thomas strokes my hair and tells me he's so sorry my family hurt me like this. That I deserved parents who celebrated me and protected me and put me first. That cutting them off was the right choice, even though it hurts. I cry until I'm exhausted and empty, and finally fall asleep in his arms. The next morning, we wake up late and order room service for breakfast. Thomas checks his phone first, and his eyes go wide as he scrolls through something. He shows me that Luke posted the video from. People are commenting that they finally understand what grandmother meant at the bridal shower about his failures as a parent. Someone Dad works with wrote that this explains so much about conversation. Another family friend says they always wondered why I never talked about my parents, and now they get it. My aunt's friends are sharing it, saying they witnessed the bridal shower incident, and this video proves the pattern of behavior. The video shows everything clearly. Ashley in the wedding dress, Dad yelling at security, Mom trying to guilt me, and Thomas stepping in to protect me. It shows me standing firm and refusing to let them ruin my day. The comments are overwhelmingly supportive of me and critical of my parents. Several people tag my father directly asking how he could do this to his own daughter on her wedding day. Thomas asks if I still want to go on our honeymoon to Hawaii, or if I want to stay and deal with the fallout. Part of me wants to hide and avoid everything, but I shake my head no. Thomas agrees and says we're going to celebrate our marriage properly without my family's drama hanging over us. We pack our bags and head to the airport that afternoon. I turn my phone mostly off so I'm not constantly checking messages and getting pulled back into the chaos. On the plane, I pull out a notebook I brought and start writing everything I want to say to my parents. All the hurt and anger. I write about how they gave Caleb everything while making me pay rent as a teenager. How they paid for his college but not mine. How they excused his failures and dismissed my successes. How they demanded I fund his wedding after working so hard to save for my own. How they showed up to sabotage my actual. The letter goes on for pages, and I know I'll probably never send it, but getting it all out helps. Thomas reads over my shoulder and squeezes my hand when I get to the. Writing it all down makes me realize how deep the favoritism goes, and how long I've been trying to earn love that was never going to come. We land in Hawaii, and the warm air feels like permission to let go of everything back home. The hotel is right on the beach, and our room has a balcony overlooking the ocean. I try to focus on being happy and celebrating my marriage to Thomas. We go to the beach and swim in the clear water and eat fresh fish at restaurants with our toes in the sand. But grief keeps hitting me in unexpected moments. I'll be laughing at something Thomas said, and suddenly I'm crying because my parents should be happy for me, but they're not. I'll see a family playing together on the beach and feel this deep ache for what I never had. I check my phone once a day to make sure nothing urgent is happening. Messages pile up from different relatives, and I read through them slowly. Some cousins I haven't talked to in years reach out to say they always knew Dad favored Caleb, and an uncle writes that he tried to talk to Dad about it years ago, but Dad got defensive and stopped speaking to him for months. My mom's sister sends a long message about how she watched the favoritism happen, and regrets not standing up for me more often. She says she's proud of how I handled everything, and she understands why I had to cut my parents off. Reading these messages helps because it confirms I'm not crazy or dramatic. Other people saw what was happening and know it was wrong. Willow texts me on day 3 of the honeymoon with an update I'm not sure I want to hear. She says Dad showed up at her house that morning demanding she talk sense into me. He was yelling on her. When Dad kept yelling, Harvey said if he came back, they'd file for harassment and get a restraining order. Willow says Dad finally left, but he was still yelling about betrayal as he drove away. She apologizes for bothering me on my honeymoon, but thought I should know in case Dad tries to escalate things. Thomas reads the message and says we might need to look into actual restraining orders when we get home if Dad doesn't calm down. The next day, I get a message from someone I didn't expect. Ashley's mom writes a long apology saying she had no idea. She says she's absolutely mortified by her daughter's behavior, and she's making Ashley return the dress and apologize properly. She explains that Ashley told her she was just going to attend the wedding as Caleb's date, and she had no idea about the sabotage plan. Ashley's mom says she raised her daughter better than this. She says she completely understands if I never want to speak to Ashley again. The message surprises me because at least someone in this mess is taking actual responsibility. I write back thanking her for the apology and saying I appreciate her honesty. I don't know if Ashley will actually apologize or if it matters at this point, but at least her mother tried to make it right. I write back thanking her for the apology and saying I appreciate her honesty. I don't know if Ashley will actually apologize or if it matters at this point, but at least her mother tried to make it right. On day 5 of the honeymoon, I wake up to 3 missed calls from Caleb and a long text message. My stomach drops before I even read it because nothing good comes from 3 missed calls. The message says he and Ashley broke up last night. She told him she only stayed with him because she thought I would eventually pay for their wedding. When it became clear that wasn't happening, she said he was useless, and she deserved someone who could provide for her. Caleb writes that he's sorry for everything, and he understands why I said no now. He says Ashley showed her true colors, and he feels like an idiot for not seeing it sooner. Part of me feels bad for him. I show Thomas the message, and he reads it without saying anything for a minute. Then he asks if I want to respond. I say maybe later because right now I just want to enjoy our last day in Hawaii without thinking about my family. We spend the morning on the beach and the afternoon exploring a local market. We eat shaved ice and buy silly souvenirs and take pictures with our toes in the sand. It's perfect and normal and exactly what I needed. That evening we sit on our balcony watching the sunset, and Thomas brings up the conversation. I know he's right even though I don't want to think about it. We spend 2 hours talking through everything. What contact looks like going forward and what our deal breakers are and what we're willing to accept. Thomas says he won't watch my parents treat me like garbage anymore, and I realize I don't want to either. We agree that unless Dad and Mom genuinely apologize and show real changed behavior, we're going no contact. Not just low contact or limited contact, but actually cutting them off completely. It feels scary and sad and also like the only choice that makes sense. Thomas holds my hand and reminds me that protecting our marriage and our future kids from toxic people is the most loving thing we can do. We fly home 2 days later and I feel different. I sort through bills and junk mail and then I find a card with grandmother's handwriting. Inside is a check for $10,000. I stare at it thinking it must be a mistake because that's an insane amount of money. The note with it says it's a wedding gift, that she was saving this money to help pay for Dad and Mom's funeral someday, but she'd rather I have it now to start my life with Thomas. She writes that she's proud of me. Thomas reads the note over my shoulder and his voice cracks when he says my grandmother is the best person he knows. We call her immediately to say thank you, and she tells us to use it for a down payment on a bigger house or a vacation or whatever we want. She says the only requirement is that we're happy. Going back to work the following Monday feels weird after everything that happened. My coworkers ask about the honeymoon and I show them pictures of beaches and sunsets. I don't mention the family drama because I'm not ready to talk about it with people who weren't there. My supervisor pulls me into her office mid-morning and asks how I'm really doing. I must look. She tells me she dealt with similar family issues years ago and it nearly destroyed her. She gives me the name of a therapist who specializes in family trauma and says the hospital insurance covers it. I take the card and thank her and feel grateful that someone understands. 2 weeks after the wedding, I make an appointment with the therapist. I almost cancel 3 times because part of me thinks I'm being dramatic and I should just get over it. The therapist listens and takes notes and doesn't look shocked by anything I say. At the end, she tells me that what happened at my wedding was actually the healthiest thing I could have done. That's setting boundaries with toxic family, that I'm not responsible for my parents' feelings or my brother's choices. Hearing a professional say these things makes me feel less crazy. Like maybe I'm not a terrible daughter for refusing to fund Caleb, maybe I'm just someone who finally learned to protect herself. I start going every week and it helps more than I expected. On Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the wedding, my phone rings with Mom's number. I don't answer because we agreed on no contact unless they apologize first. She leaves a voicemail and I wait until I'm home with Thomas before I listen to it. Her voice is sharp and angry. She says I've embarrassed the entire family and destroyed Caleb's life, that everyone is talking about what I did, and she can't show her face anywhere. She demands I apologize to everyone and help pay for Caleb to get therapy because he's so depressed he can't get out of bed. She says if I don't make this right, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. The voicemail ends and I sit there feeling numb. Thomas asks if I want to call her back and I shake my head no. But I do pull out my phone and send a text message. I write that I'm open to rebuilding our relationship if she and Dad are willing to go to family therapy and genuinely acknowledge how they've treated me differently than Caleb my entire life. That I need a real apology. I block her number after that because I'm done being manipulated. Thomas and I settle into married life over the next few weeks, and it's actually really good despite everything. We cook dinner together and watch movies and talk about what kind of house we want to buy with grandmother's gift. We're building our own traditions and our own definition of what family means. It's different from I imagined, but it's ours. Every Sunday, grandmother invites us for dinner at her house. It becomes She says he would have been so proud of me for standing up for myself and not letting anyone walk all over, that he always said the measure of a person is how they treat others when there's nothing to gain. She holds my hand across the table and tells me I turned out exactly right despite my parents' best efforts to break me. 3 months after the wedding, I get a letter in the mail with Caleb's handwriting on the envelope. I almost throw it away without reading it, but Thomas says I should at least see what it says. I open it carefully like it might explode. Inside is 3 pages of actual thoughtful writing. Caleb says breaking up with Ashley was the wake-up call he needed. That he realized how entitled he's been his entire life, and how that he's getting a real job and going back to the school and trying to become someone he can be proud of. He says he doesn't expect me to forgive him right away, but he hopes someday we can have a relationship again. The letter surprises me because it actually sounds sincere. Not like the manipulative crying phone call. I put it on the kitchen counter and tell Thomas I need time to think about it. He says that's fair, and that I don't owe Caleb anything just because he finally apologized. But part of me wonders if maybe this is the beginning of something different. If maybe losing Ashley helped Caleb see things clearly for the first time. I'm not ready to respond yet, but I don't throw the letter away either. 2 weeks pass before I text Caleb back and suggest meeting at a coffee shop downtown on Saturday morning. He responds within minutes saying yes and asking what time works for me. I pick 10 in the morning because it feels safe and public and I can leave whenever I want. Saturday comes and I drive there feeling sick to my stomach because part of me expects him to cancel or show up late or bring some new drama. But when I walk in at exactly 10, he's already sitting at a corner table with 2 coffees in front of him. He stands up when he sees me and looks nervous in a way I've never seen before. We sit down and I wrap my hands around the coffee cup he bought me and start talking. I tell him about being 14 and working at the grocery store while he got driven to soccer practice. About paying rent at 18 while he lived free. About taking out loans while his college got paid for. About every single time Dad called me dramatic or selfish when I asked for the same treatment Caleb got without asking. He doesn't interrupt once. He admits that Mom and Dad gave him everything his whole life, and he never had to work for anything or face any consequences. Says he knows now that he was acting entitled and taking advantage and expecting everyone to fix his problems. Then he tells me he broke his lease on the apartment he couldn't, that he got a job doing customer service at a call center and it's not glamorous but it's steady income. That he enrolled at community college to finish his degree part-time. He says he wants to earn my trust back over time, and he knows that means showing me through actions, not just words. I sit there processing everything he just said, because it sounds so different from the Caleb I've known my entire life. I tell him I appreciate the apology, but rebuilding our relationship will take time and consistent changed behavior. That I need to see him actually following through on these plans for months before I can start trusting him again. He nods and says he understands, and he's not asking for immediate forgiveness. Just a chance to prove he's changing. We talk for another 20 minutes about small things like his new apartment and my honeymoon, and it feels weird but not terrible. When we leave, he hugs me and thanks me for meeting him, and I drive home feeling confused about whether this is real or just another manipulation. 3 days later, I'm scrolling through Facebook during my lunch break at work when a message notification pops up from Dad. I open it and immediately feel my blood pressure spike. He wrote 5 paragraphs about how I've turned Caleb against him, and I'm destroying the family and everyone thinks I'm being cruel. Says Caleb won't return his calls now and it's my fault for filling his head with lies about the past. Claims I'm rewriting history to make myself look good and make him look bad. Demands I stop manipulating my brother and convince him to talk to his parents again. I read it twice and then I block him. Just click the button and remove him from my contacts and my social media and my life. Thomas asks me that night if I'm okay, and I tell him I'm done being blamed for consequences of Dad's own actions. That blocking him feels like closing a door I should have closed years ago. November arrives and Willow calls to invite us for Thanksgiving at her house. She says very clearly that Dad and Mom aren't invited if they can't be civil and respectful. That this holiday is going to be about family who actually treats each other well. I ask if Caleb is coming and she says she invited him separately, and he said yes. Thanksgiving Day comes and Thomas and I show up at Willow's with a pumpkin pie and low expectations. Caleb arrives 30 minutes after us, and it's awkward when we first see each other, but not terrible. He brought mashed potatoes that he actually made himself instead of buying pre-made. During dinner, he talks about his classes and his job and doesn't ask me for anything or try to guilt me about Mom and Dad. Harvey asks him how community college is going, and Caleb admits it's harder than he expected because he actually has to study. We talk about how I can build a life without them and still be okay. How chosen family matters just as much as blood family. How protecting my peace is worth the cost of losing people who only hurt me. December brings good news when Thomas comes home from work grinning and tells me he got promoted to senior project manager. We sit at our kitchen table that night with a notebook and start talking seriously about buying a house. Looking at neighborhoods we like and calculating what we can afford with grandmother's gift, plus our savings, plus Thomas's new salary. It feels good to plan our future without the weight of family obligation hanging over us. Without wondering if we'll have to bail out Caleb or loan money to my parents, or put our own dreams on hold for someone else's emergency. Over the next few months, Caleb starts texting me regularly with updates about. He sends me a picture of his first test grade back from college with a B+ at the top. Tells me when he gets moved from the call center to a better position handling escalated customers. eventually mentions he got a job at a tech company doing entry-level support work, and he's actually showing up on time and working hard. The texts are short and don't demand responses, but I find myself replying more often than I expected, asking questions about his classes or telling him good job on the new position. 6 months after the wedding, I'm cleaning out my email inbox when I see a new message from Mom's address. My finger hovers over the delete button, but curiosity wins. I open it and find 3 sentences saying she misses me. That's it. It's the first time she's admitted that our estrangement affects her at all. I stare at those 3 sentences for a long time, trying to figure out how I feel about them. 2 days later, I write back. I tell her I miss her too, but I need a real apology, that missing someone isn't enough if they're not willing to acknowledge how they hurt you, and actually that I'm open to rebuilding if she's willing to do the work, but I'm not accepting breadcrumbs anymore. I hit send and wait. Days pass and then weeks, and she never responds. Thomas says at least I said what I needed to say, and put the ball in her court. That I gave her the chance, and what she does with it is her choice. I save her email and my response in a folder because someday I might need to remember that I tried. I drive straight there and find half the family in the waiting room, including my parents. Dad sits in the corner with Mom, and we make eye contact for maybe 2 seconds before I look away and sit with Willow and Harvey instead. Over the next week, I visit grandmother every day after work, and Dad is there sometimes too, but we never speak or acknowledge each other. Grandmother is stable but weaker than before, and the doctors say her heart is giving out slowly. I realize sitting in that hospital room that I'm completely okay with the silence between Dad and me. I don't feel guilty or sad about it anymore, just neutral, like he's a stranger I happen to see sometimes. 3 months later, Thomas comes home grinning with paperwork and announces we got approved for the mortgage on a house we loved in a neighborhood with good schools and a big backyard. We close 2 weeks after that and spend our first weekend painting the guest room a soft. We hang pictures grandmother gave us and set up furniture Aunt Willow helped us pick out. The house feels like the fresh start we needed after everything. Moving day arrives, and I'm surprised when Caleb shows up at 7 in the morning ready to work. He lifts boxes and furniture without complaining and actually seems happy to help. Harvey and Luke are there too, and we get everything moved in one long day. That evening, we order pizza and sit on our new living room floor because we're too tired to set up the table yet. Caleb tells me between bites that he's proud of how he says going to community college is harder than he expected because he actually has to study, but he's doing it. I tell him I'm proud of him too, and I mean it. A year after the wedding, I wake up in our house next to Thomas and realize I'm genuinely happy. Not perfect or problem-free, but actually content with the life we built together. My relationship with Caleb is slowly healing through consistent effort on his part. Grandmother is still here, and we have dinner with her and Aunt Willow's family. The biggest thing I learned is that protecting my peace matters more than maintaining toxic relationships just because we share DNA. Some family is born and some family is chosen, and both kinds are equally valid. Mom never responded to my email and Dad never apologized, but I'm okay with that now. I built a good life without them, and that's enough.
Did you enjoy my story? What a journey it has been. I truly wonder, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have chosen silence to keep the peace, or would you have done what I did to reclaim your dignity? Let's meet in the comments below. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. I'm reading every single one. Which city are you listening from tonight? If my story resonated with you, you can support me and help me bring more stories like this to the world by sending a super thanks. Your sweet support means the world to me and allows me to continue this journey with all of you. On the screen now, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend you watch next. There are so many more on my channel, each with its own lessons and triumphs. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss a new chapter. Thank you for being here with me. Until the next story, with love and respect.